Welcome to the UIAAA Connection podcast. Hometown Ticketing is proud to be the exclusive sponsor of the UIAAA Connection podcast and to provide schools nationwide with the best options for digital ticketing for their events. Visit their website at hometownticketing.com to learn how they can make digital ticketing possible and simple at your school. Thank you to Hometown Ticketing for their exclusive sponsorship of the UIAAA Connection podcast.
Welcome back to another edition of the UIAAA Connection. I'm your host, Mark Hutch Hunter. Today we have as our guest Travis Madsen, Certified Athletic Administrator, the Director of Athletics at Wasatch Academy. Welcome to the podcast, Travis.
Thanks, Hutch. Happy to be here.
Let's have you begin by sharing with our audience here in Utah and across the nation where you grew up, where you went to college, your first job, etc.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Fairview, Utah, which is about 6 miles away from where I'm at right now, at Wasatch Academy. I was born, Fairview didn't have a hospital. I like to joke with my students that I was born in the drug rehab up on State Street, which was a hospital back then, and then they built a new hospital. And so I was actually born in Mount Pleasant, but was raised in Fairview. Had a great childhood, amazing parents. I was one of those lucky people that just had two great parents and a good childhood. I'm the first of 7 kids. And so my parents were busy. Fairview was a great place to grow up. A lot of times when we were little, the only worry during the summer was where were we going to go fishing the next day, that sort of thing, with my friends. It was great.
Sure.
Loved sports, grew up around sports. I'd go see my cousins playing football, basketball, baseball, everything. In the summers, that's, we'd go fishing, work on the farm, and play baseball. And that was kind of what we did with our summers growing up. Went to North Sanpete High School. I was just a little feller. I graduated at 135 pounds, and I loved sports, but I really wasn't good enough to make the teams. And so I didn't get to play high school athletics, but I still always was able to find a game anywhere, played some, had a lot of fun playing church ball, community ball, that sort of thing. And after high school, I worked a lot of farm jobs during high school, and then went to Snow College for a year. And then it was Utah Valley State College back at the time when I attended it. It's Utah Valley University now. That's where I finished everything else.
That's excellent. So let's talk for a moment a little bit more about your youth sports activity, obviously in Fairview, which is suburban Mount Pleasant, I guess is the best way to say it. Not a huge town. So do you get the same amount of opportunities, or did you have to travel quite a bit to play some of those youth sports?
When we didn't travel much, baseball was big here, especially when I was a kid. Every town in the area had their own baseball team for each age group, and it was competitive. It was good ball. And then Snow College, this was before the days of junior jazz, but Snow College offered a lot of youth sports too, mainly basketball, but that was they kind of organized the leagues there. So there was plenty of competition within the county, and I don't really remember many of my friends even going on comp leagues or traveling even up to Provo. There was quite a few. We had a lot of great opportunity here. And I think there's still pretty good opportunity as well. So.
Excellent. So talk for a moment about some of the mentors you had in your lives, parents, teachers, coaches, etc.
I definitely have to point a finger at both of my parents. My dad, I learned how to work, how to be a good man, how to, honest, treat people well. My mom, she was that mom that would, I'm 6 or 7 years old and want to learn how to hit a baseball off of something besides a tee, and she'd be out there tossing the ball to me in the backyard, and sooner or later, even a 6-year-old's going to get a hold of one and rip it right back at you. But she was the one that just was always really focused on her kids, and taught me how to treat people with kindness and respect. And, other mentors I had, uh, as an athletic director, when I first started, coaching and athletic director, and I'll get to Vince Minor later if we're talking about like the beginning of the career there, but
Okay.
we had George Bruce was great for me. He was one of the ADs that really seemed to know everything. Kendra Tomsick was just, she's, they still are people I love to run into, and I still, even now 30 years later, I'm still, it's not quite 30, it's like 27, but I still call Kendra every once in a while to ask her because she knows everything. And then
She does.
that's back in the early days of my career. We had Ed, out at West Desert, Ed, why am I forgetting his last name? I forgot his last, Ed
Probably
Alder.
this Alder. There you go.
Yeah, he was really a great mentor too. And then, we had guys like Clayton Carter, Brett Andrus, Ty Kennedy, Blaine Burston. We were all kind of the young ADs in our region back then. And the older ones were just so good about helping us. And then, we could always pick each other's brains too. When we had those good friendships that it was, it was a friendly call, but it was also, hey, how do you do this? I'm not sure what to do here. And so there's, great mentors.
Excellent. Travis, tell us what's the biggest failure or disappointment in your life, and what did you learn from it?
I think you're probably seeing a common theme with us ADs that the interview, but I think my biggest failure is that I didn't find the balance of work and family. And I wish I would have spent more time focused on family. And learning from that, I'm still always trying to find that balance, but I do really make more of an effort to spend time with family. And now, the kids are are grown, but it's still fun to be able to spend time with them and my wife. And I still have a lot of my siblings and parents that still live in the area that I'm able to see them and make time for them as well. So I just learned how to be that balance. I just learned from that failure that's what came of it. And then it's something that's still a work in progress. I will admit that.
Let's have you talk about your background on how you became an athletic director, and talk about Wasatch Academy, because Wasatch Academy is just a hair different. Well, actually quite different than maybe the rest of us in public school, and even different than those of us that were in private school.
Yeah. Okay. Where I started, how I became an athletic director, I was fairly young. I was at Meridian School. So I'm going to back it up to college. I was in college. I had started basically a career in social work, and I was going to college and doing the social work. And I was working with youth, had a hard time leaving work at work. Just, it was, for me personally, they tell me things, and I was carrying that with me too much. And I just kind of, and then the business end of it, I got a little burned out on that, but I was like, okay, I'm still young, doing the college thing. I can still, sky's the limit. And I was talking to my mom one day, and she just said, I think you'd be a good teacher. Yeah. And she's a teacher as well. And she says, why don't you go into education? And it just made sense. And so from there, I decided I wanted to be a coach. I wanted to, I thought high school would be great to work at and coach there. I just have always loved sports. And I feel like there's so much education that goes on in athletic departments. And so my dad was childhood friends with Vince Minor, who was the original, he started the men's basketball program at UVU back when it was called Utah Valley Tech. And they were borrowing the gym from Mountain View to even have their practices to get that program started. And I went and talked to him, and he said, and he wasn't coaching the college team anymore, but he said, hey, I just started coaching at this little private school down in Provo called Meridian. Why don't you come be my assistant coach? And from there, it was great. He was a huge mentor, taught me so much, how to work with the kids, how to connect, how to the patient, and plus the X's and O's. He's, amazing at that part of it too. And so I started off as a voluntary coach for the boys basketball program. And by the next fall, they asked me to coach the girls varsity program. So I was involved with both the boys and girls basketball program, but then it became, coaching baseball, coaching soccer, and oh, by the way, our athletic director just was hired by the Olympic volleyball team to be an assistant coach for the Olympic volleyball team. And so it was pretty much on his way out the door. He handed me the UHSAA handbook and said, "There you go. Good luck. And, see you later." so that, I talk about George and Kendra. They were the most valuable people in my life in those days to learn how to be an athletic director, because I really didn't know what I was doing.
So how many years were you at Meridian?
I was there, it was 17, 18 years, right in there. And it was a great school. It went under, it was a private school. And, when you had 2008, 2009, you had the economy nosedive, and then charter schools coming online about the same time. It just, they just couldn't catch a break. It was too bad. They ended up going out of business, and, I loved it there, but it opened up another opportunity that Ty Kennedy, who was, he was one of the athletic directors from Wasatch Academy that I'd worked with quite a bit. When I was AD at Meridian, he asked me to, he interviewed me and hired me at Wasatch, and I've been here ever since.
Well, that's a story. I didn't know that you were at Meridian for so many years. So
yeah,
just shows how out of touch I've been. So that's a great story. Let's talk for a moment about the job of athletic director today and how it's different from when your previous AD gave you the handbook and walked out the door. And so talk about how that's changed.
Well, I know for sure the handbook was a lot thinner back then. There have been a lot of pages added since then. I think that the job itself has become more complicated. I mean, I still love it. There's the changes. I know they've been for the good. I know there's a lot of things I feel like athletic directors, coaches, I want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt that they've always, have the best interest of the students, the student athletes in mind. But, there have been people that have screwed up. There've been lawsuits and all of that. So I think, the job itself, because of that, has become more, you need to have more certifications. You need to have more, the part of educating the coaches, I think, is is definitely larger than it was before. Before it was you hired a coach and you kind of, assist them to do their thing. And now, you need to make sure that they've gone through the child sex abuse training, the bullying, hazing, the concussion, all of that. I think those are good. It's progress. But it is more on our plate than there used to be.
Let's have you talk for a moment about your time with the UIAAA, how you got involved with the UIAAA, and of course, you've been serving on the Athletic Director Executive Committee for a while, the ADEC. So speak to those issues.
Okay. So as far as ADEC goes, this is my third year on ADEC, and I've loved it. It's I learn something new every meeting we go to. It's just a unique, good group of people. And, as far as the networking, and I hate to say networking, it's more of just, it's not I'm going to try to hit you up for a job eventually. It's, there are friendships that are founded there, and the support, the way everybody just supports each other. And, we are able to talk about, when we have those meetings, we talk about what is the current issue that we're facing. What can we do to better serve these kids that that we've been charged with, that we get to have in our lives, and that we get to work with every day. And so that that part of it, as far as ADEC goes, has been great. And then the leadership, the opportunity to serve, that's just, I think those just help you become a better person. And then, beyond that, there's just so many positives that come out of it. As far as the UIAAA, I've always valued, the certification, the being, the classes you can take. There's so much that, so much information there. Yeah, when I began as an athletic director, I did go to the conference in the spring and started the classes, and then it was years before I went back into it. And part of it was I would have, there wasn't a budget to send me to the conference and pay for classes. And not that they're very expensive, they're very well priced, but I wasn't earning a lot then either. And so it was, it was it ended up being an economic thing for me, but I still, made sure I was familiar with the handbook of the UHSAA and also tried to keep up on what was going on with UIAAA.
Let's have you expand a little bit. You mentioned about certification, and you are a CAA, and almost have your CMA, but I want you to speak to our audience and those ADs out there that are not certified, and the importance of becoming certified.
I've been preaching the sermon at our region meetings, and hopefully some of the ADs in our small region here will pick up on that too. But number one, the knowledge base that you have access to through those certifications. It's not just for your own knowledge, your own information, for your own ability to do your job and do it better. You also have, it connects you with so many other athletic directors that have been there, that they've done that they can, you're able to ask advice on things. That huge knowledge base, that constant access to that knowledge base that's extremely valuable. And then when you look at the insurance policy that you get, the $1 million liability insurance, that I would think alone would be worth any school saying, hey, we'll pay your way to go get certified as an athletic director. And then, you look beyond that, you do all the legal classes that, you become very specialized as an athletic director. And that's something that I don't think people realize what goes into that. And those certifications, if you're not going through those certifications, you're going to be blindsided by something sooner or later. And there's such value there to help you be prepared for almost anything that comes up. And it's constantly evolving, which is another good point.
Some good points. Thanks for sharing that with our audience. Let's have you talk for a moment, Travis, about the most recent national conference. I say most recent, it's obviously been 8 months, but I know you were able to attend in Denver, and I want your thoughts on that, and maybe share with our audience anything that happened to you there that was different than you thought it would be, or anything like that.
Okay. All right. So that was my first national conference, and it was great. It was in Denver. Denver's a neat city. It was fun to see the city, but you go into the convention center there, and I was amazed at how well it was organized. Like, we all had our badges, the directions to the class, they had plenty of staff, good food, and just everybody was friendly. You'd go to the class, they could scan you in, and then to go in and rate the class on the way out, they had where you could just scan it and it would immediately link you to your comments on the class. I thought the teachers, and I know that was one thing that I thought was unique, is it's not like, a paid professional staff that are going around and doing these conferences all the times. It's athletic directors or retired athletic directors like you and I. I'm not retired, you are, but
yes,
congratulations, by the way. But I took one class that you were one of the teachers in, and it
790, sure.
Yeah, we and we're is being taught by each other, I was just amazed at how professional and they're good teachers. It's a shame, there's not more of us still in the classroom. I think there would be, you did a great job. I think it would be, you in front of a classroom of high school students would, lucky for them, they would be well taught. So.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and thank you for your impressions on the conference.
Let's have you asked about one surprise there. At the conference so the final meeting, when it's the big stage and
right.
You have athletic directors from all over the country, all over the world. Actually, there were several international athletic directors there too. And when they were doing the NFHS presentations, and all of a sudden Rob Cuff is up there, and I don't know what memo I missed, but I didn't realize that he was the president of the NFHS as well.
Yeah.
And that was pretty neat to see Rob walk out, and we got 1,000 people there, and it's I know that guy. He's anyway, and Rob's great. He's another one of those mentors that I think has had a very positive effect on a lot of us, and that was neat to see him on that national stage.
And now we'll be seeing Big Rich, because he's in the process. Well, by the time this airs, he will be in Indianapolis, and he's already working remotely. And so that's a great thing for Utah to have him back there. And he's done such a great job.
Yeah.
What's one common myth about being an athletic administrator that you would want to debunk?
That it can all be done by one person. And not complaining about job load, but I think that, it takes, your students being willing to get on Register My Athlete, the parents being willing to meet with you and to work with the students on Register My Athlete, the coaches, it's definitely a community. And if you try to do all of that yourself, you won't survive. And it is okay to ask for help, but you think of all the setup and the takedowns, all of the behind the scenes, the cleanup of the gyms. There's some athletic directors are out there doing it themselves, and some are arranging for the other crews to do it. But there's a lot there that it's not one person, unless maybe Superman, I don't know, but it's not a job that the umbrella of the athletic director job could not be done by just one person.
Great answer. Thanks for sharing that. What's the favorite part of your job, Travis?
I really enjoy working with the kids. My office is right, in our athletic facilities, so it's right in the corner of the weight room. And so, we have kids come in, they're popping in all the time. I came home to do this because I would have had a lot of knocks on my door and people coming in if we tried to do this at my office. So, but and they're just to see where they start a season and where they end a season, to see what these amazing coaches do with them, and the kids, just from, at Meridian, I was able to know the kids from, they were preschool age to senior in high school. Now at Wasatch, we have, a few 7th and 8th graders, mostly are 9 through 12. But to see the individual progression, both athletically, but also emotionally, physically, socially, just what they can do is just amazing. And I love that part of the job, just being that I get to be a part of that, even if it's not directly. It is fun to be around that environment.
Well, you're a veteran AD, Travis. So let's finish with a couple of questions. The first one being 2 suggestions for a brand new athletic administrator. They need to follow these suggestions in order for them to be successful. What would your 2 suggestions be?
Number one, I think find the balance. I've said that a couple times, probably too many today, but it is important to be around your family, to and one thing, as being an athletic director, hopefully have a wife and kids that enjoy athletics, because they can come to those basketball games and introduce them to your student athletes, and let the kids idolize, the young ones really just love those older kids that are out there doing things on the court and the field that they want to do someday. But make sure you find that balance that between family and work, and don't be, the second would be, listen, be a good listener. There are times, and I've been guilty, I'm still guilty of this, but, listen to the question, listen to, if you have a parent that's coming in and they, you may, listen for what the real issue is. You may think that they're coming in just to yell at you, that they're, it could be something else, and it's okay to listen and think about your answer before you give it. So.
Travis, what questions should I have asked you that I failed to ask you?
Let's see. How about what would, if you had it all to do over again, what would you do differently?
Well, if you did have it all to do over again, what would you do differently?
I would find that balance. And I, I've loved working with coaches, kids, coaching, all of this. I've really, there's a lot of that I wouldn't do different. I would be willing to delegate and ask for help more often. And I would invest in Microsoft, Apple, and Google. And so at this point, I'd be able to, just go out and buy uniforms for the kids, or go buy new equipment. So anyway, be able to support the programs in a better way that way. So.
That is a great answer. That wraps it up for this edition of the UIAAA Connection. Once again, our guest has been Travis Madsen, Certified Athletic Administrator, the Director of Athletics at Wasatch Academy. Thanks for being on the show, Travis.
Thanks, Hutch.
For our listeners, we hope you tune in again next week for another edition of the UIAAA Connection.